Hey everyone, Dr. JJ here. Today I wanted to talk to you about one of the questions I get asked almost daily in practice, and it's always talking about vitamin D levels. So what is vitamin D? Well, simply put, vitamin D is, well, it's a vitamin, but really it's more like a hormone. It acts on cells, it does all kinds of things. It's tied into almost every single biochemical process that we have as humans. It's one of the major things that I find that's associated with people that have deficient in people that have autoimmune issues, people that have cancer, or have a higher risk of if you are vitamin D deficient, you have a higher risk of cancer, heart disease, neurodegenerative conditions. Basically anything and everything that is affecting us today in society kind of is being linked into a vitamin D deficiency. I mean, this is probably making an overstatement, but probably every disease has a vitamin or mineral deficiency. We haven't found the right one that's in vogue. Up until for the last 15 years or so, it's been the last 5 that's really become in vogue that vitamin D is one of those things that they're testing for significantly. Most of the time, in previous generations over the past thousands of years, that we felt like that we could get enough vitamin D from the sun. And with today's society the way that it is, we're not getting that because, in my opinion, we're spending way too much time indoors. We're not going out, we're not going for walks, we're not doing things like that we need to do. Also, we're looking at really, in my opinion, a lot of this incidence of vitamin D deficiency may be linked, at least correlated slightly, into the massive overuse of sunblocks and sunscreens. So has a huge effect on all of that. Now let's talk really quick about the physiology of vitamin D. The UVB radiation, that's the ultraviolet B form of radiation, hits our skin and takes cholesterol, which we've had a war on for about 50 years. Takes cholesterol, it's not quite cholesterol, but it's close to a cholesterol. Takes cholesterol and turns it into a form of vitamin D. That form of vitamin D travels to the liver and then gets activated into what's tested in the blood called 25-hydroxyl vitamin D. Big, long, fancy words, but we'll leave it at that. Then from there, that's still not really the most active form. It goes to the kidney down in here, the things that make you pee, right? Or that filter the blood and make you pee. It gets filtered down, it gets transformed into 1,25-hydroxyl vitamin D. So that's the most active form. That's the one that really is the most beneficial to us. Part of the problem I have with the blood test right now is that really they're only measuring that 25-hydroxyl vitamin D. So there could be other breakdowns other places. So if you don't have enough 25-hydroxyl vitamin D, you may either not have enough cholesterol, you may not have a liver that can function 100% to make that 25-hydroxyl vitamin D. Then if you still are vitamin D deficient, have symptoms of it, which we'll get to in just a second, of vitamin D, then really you may have a kidney issue. You may not be drinking enough water, things like that. You may not have enough vitamin A, which we'll talk about. So let's kind of break it down. This is a big, long introduction to what are the 3 things that you can do to increase your vitamin D, which we'll get to at the end. But basically it's get more sun, eat the right foods, and possibly supplement, but do the right supplement. So the signs and symptoms. How do you know if you're vitamin D deficient? And then what is a vitamin D deficiency really? The ways you can tell, it's very, very nebulous, not quite defined what the signs and symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency are. If you're old or young, it's a pretty good guess that you're vitamin D deficient. If you're obese, it's a pretty good guess that you're vitamin D deficient because vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins. And if you are obese, you have a lot of fat cells that can pull up a lot of your fat-soluble vitamins and hold on to them so that you may be relatively deficient. You may have enough in your adipose tissue, but you may not have enough circulating in your blood where it's actually needed to get 2 cells. Then when you look other things, if you're depressed, if you have fertility issues, if you have gut symptoms, if you have gastrointestinal complaints, gas, belching, bloating, you don't feel good, your tummy hurts, anything along those lines, if you have autoimmune disease, you probably are it could be pretty well guessed that you have a vitamin D deficiency. So when we look at the blood, and we're looking typically at 25-hydroxyl vitamin D, then what's the range? What does it mean when the doctor says, oh, you're fine. Oh, no, you're deficient. Well, I'm a little bit more aggressive than most medical doctors when I look at vitamin D levels. Even though I know that there's flaws in the test, that level should be a little bit higher, even though there's other things, which we'll talk about in another video, or things like that can be going wrong, that can cause a fluctuation in your 25-hydroxyl vitamin D. But when you are looking at the blood work, when you get the blood drawn and you look at that blood work, what is a normal range? Well, pathologically speaking, it's 30 micrograms per picograms per milliliter, up to 100. So that's the normal range. That's a pretty big range. Anything below 30 is considered deficient. Anything above 30, yep, you're good, perfect. Well, there is an optimal range. That optimal range is probably 50 to 100. You really don't want to go toxic with vitamin D because it can just be bad news. You can change all kinds of other stuff. So when you, for me, optimal range is probably where I try to push everybody, is probably that 60, 70 number. Try to get to that. And to do that, let's get into the three things. If you have been diagnosed with low vitamin D, here's your three things that you can do to take away. First, get more sun, obviously. That's just plain and simple. Make sure you have healthy skin. Now, the ways to get healthy skin: drink plenty of water, 4 to 6 liters of water a day. Make sure you eat good fats, meaning good fish fats and things like that. If ladies, this is predominantly directed at you, but men starting to moisturize more often too. Dry skin is not a symptom or a sign of a lotion deficiency. It actually means that things are off in your body. Usually either your gallbladder or your thyroid aren't working very well. Things you can do naturally: coconut oils, olive oils, things like that, after you shower. That's some of the things to hydrate and moisturize your skin. That's usually what I recommend. So there's step number one: make sure you get out into the sun 15 minutes at least a day. And that's 15 minutes of sun on your arms and legs. If it's wintertime, do the best you can, but get some sun somewhere. If you have to, go buy a UV lamp using the proper eye protection and things like that, and get some sun on your face and chest and arms, okay? And belly. That's where you really want to get the sun, on the big areas. You don't want to get burnt, but you do want to get more sun on those areas. All right, so moving on to diet. So what can we do diet-wise? Your fatty fish. This is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you want to eat fat. I know this is really odd for today's society, but eat fat. Meaning, I want you to eat the fatty fish. I want you to eat the salmon, the cod, the tuna. Everybody says, well, what about the mercury? I don't worry about the mercury as much as the vitamin D. Mercury is an issue, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on that issue, okay? So get some fatty fish in there, at least 3 servings a week if you're vitamin D deficiency. Now those are, so the other ways you can get it into your diet, there's mushrooms. So another serving of that a week. Portobellas tend to have a decent amount of vitamin D in them. That's one of the things you want to increase in your diet. Now this one's kind of gross. I'm a paleo primal guy, so a lot of people are going to have issues with this and not going to do it. But offal, meaning the organ meat, so calves, liver, things like that, high in vitamin D, also high in your other fat-soluble vitamins. So very, very important. Then the other thing you could do is supplement. So a lot of people aren't going to do either one of those because of their fear of risk of skin cancer, or their just fear of risk of eating food. Then you got to supplement. And I do recommend supplements from time to time. I've only found 1 or 2 that are usually pretty decent, because it's a pretty complex synthesis, as we talked about at the beginning of this video, of how to create vitamin D. So you need vitamin A, you need biotin, you need pantothenic acid, pantothene, you need boron. Boron's a mineral, so you need magnesium. You need some fats there, because that helps with the absorption of vitamin D. So those of you out there just taking a vitamin D3 supplement, you're missing the boat. That's not what you need to do. You need to make sure it's a full spectrum supplement if you're going to do that. I found 1 or 2 good ones out there. You can call up the office and we'll get you the name of it. It's I'll give it to you now. Apex Energetics. I have no financial ties to that company, but it's one of the few that I've found that has that full spectrum with the cod liver oil base, with the boron, the magnesium, and things like that. So that's a pretty good one. That's usually one of the few that I do recommend that I think is actually worth its salt, or worth its weight in gold. So those are the three things you can do. Take a supplement, get your butt in the sun, and eat the right foods. And that's pretty much, guess what? That's how you get healthy with anything. So do that. Until next time, my name is Dr. J.J. Gregor. Make your health as easy as you can and just do the right things of taking care of yourself. Have a great day.